I am an engine. My mother was imagination. My father, molten metal. In me is power, churning power, turning power, burning power.
American automotive brands are known for a lot of things. All-around utilitarian nature, high-performance engines, big and small block 8-cylinder engines. Due to EPA ratings, most engines today are rated for small blocks. You can still purchase big block engines by way of crate engines, but most engines are 6.2-liter units, or indeed smaller. That's not necessarily a bad thing, however, as modern tech means even small-capacity engines can now churn out big block-rivaling power. That's not to say small blocks weren't popular in the past either, because there were plenty of them in the 1960s and into the 1970s, especially in muscle cars. While big blocks were more popular in the performance and the keeping up with the Joneses side, small blocks were a good choice for those still wanting brute power, but not something that was entirely gas-guzzling. We've got a list that'll tell you what the rarest 12 small block V8s ever produced were. We will tell you what they were primarily used in and what their specifications are. According to Speedway Motors, General Motors' small block V8 has been in production for at least 49 years and is by far the most popular iteration of a small block V8, outpacing the LS V8s. It was featured in several vehicles, but most notably the iconic C2 Corvette. What made it so capable was that it had a hydraulic camshaft that was able to perform at high speeds. It outputs a total of 350 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. Perhaps the only car that is offered with a half-year moniker, the 1964.5 Ford Mustang, was offered in several engine variations, including an inline six-cylinder that barely made 100 horsepower. The D-code 4.7-liter naturally aspirated V8 was the second to the top-of-the-line V8, that also offered second to the top in terms of horsepower and torque output of 210 horsepower and 300 pound-feet. You could opt for the 4.7-liter V8 that had a high compression ratio and more power, but the D-code engine is rarer, as Ford only made about 42,000 units. The LT5 is special in its own right. Not only is it a small block V8, but it's also an all-aluminum block that was produced by a marine company that only specialized in making V8s for boats. At the time, Chevrolet chose to outsource the production of their all-new aluminum V8 to this marine firm, which had much experience in the field. As a result of the design, these engines produced 375 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque. The 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z28, boasting the DZ302, was the rarest bird of the bunch. It was one of 4 different Camaro packages at the time and included a 302 cubic inch naturally aspirated V8 that produced a 1-to-1 power output of 290 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque. Obviously, the Z28 name badge has been repopularized in recent years, but for the 1969 Z28, Chevy only made about 20,300 units. A lot of the engines on this list are special edition offerings that were so rare, they needed a code to signify the differences between the base model engine and the rarity of the engine itself. That's where the Hypo K-code Ford 289 V8 comes in. It was a much pricier option for cars like the Fairline and the Mustang, and didn't offer much in the way of value in terms of power, making it tricky to justify spending the extra cash. It wasn't underpowered by any means, as it did output 271 horsepower and 312 pound-feet of torque. The initial Boss motor can be found by way of the 1969 Boss 302 Mustang, and, unlike the 1970 version, Ford only made 1,628 units in this model year. In total, though, production of the Boss 302 V8 engine was up at 8,642 units, making it one of the rarest small blocks around. It generates the same 1-to-1 power ratio of 290 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque. The engine itself was featured not only as an option for pedestrian Mustangs, but it was also used in Trans Am racing. The C2 Corvette had a myriad of engine options at the buyer's disposal. All of them were technically rare, and Chevrolet really didn't make a lot of them. One version was the L75 V8 that had 327 cubic inches of displacement and had a very impressive 300 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. Another rare C2 Corvette engine, the Chevrolet L76 327 cubic inch V8 had a 4-barrel carburetor, a mechanically helped camshaft, and a higher compression ratio of 11:1. It outputs 340 horsepower and 344 pound-feet of torque. According to Speedway Motors, they can only get up to about 5,600 RPM from the factory, but you can tune them to get up to 8,000 RPM. The Dodge six-pack moniker is so popular at this point that they're coming out with a new Dodge Charger Daytona EV with a six-pack option. The original six-pack was a small block, naturally aspirated V8 that delivers 275 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. It was mostly found in Dodge Challenger TA muscle cars, but they were also available in Dodge Darts. The Chevrolet LT1 is a small block V8 with a big block output. This version of the LT1 was in production from 1970 to 1972, but had a modernized revival in the early 1990s. Sneaking in before strict emissions regulations ruined impressive power outputs in the 1970s, this exclusive small block provided owners with 370 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of total output. Oldsmobile makes some great V8 engines. The W31 V8 is part of Oldsmobile's Ram Air engines that helped boost power without making it a big block. The point of this specific engine was to offer consumers something that had just as much power as a big block for not as much money. It certainly achieved that with 310 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of total torque. It was also fairly rare, with less than 2,500 units produced in total. At number 1 on our list of most rare small block V8s is the AMC 290 V8. AMCs in general are rare cars themselves, so if there's a rare version of an AMC, that must mean it's pretty rare, and it is. With only 623 units made of this small 290 cubic inch V8, the AMC 290. It's an important engine for this foregone automotive brand, as it was one of their first V8s to roll off the assembly line to compete with brands like Chevrolet and Ford. Well, there you have it. 12 rarest American small block V8 engines ever built. Have we missed any more? What V8 engines do you think should be in this list instead? Comment down below and let's discuss. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button to keep you updated on our future uploads. Until then, I'll catch you on the next one.